You're listening to John Highman from Commercial Real Estate Online. This is another training video for commercial real estate brokers and agents around the world. Indeed, if this is the first video that you've seen that we're providing here, certainly visit the website and you'll get a lot more tips and ideas from the main website, which is commercial-realestate-training.com. I'll repeat that, commercial-realestate-training.com. At that website we've got plenty of tips, tools and ideas to help commercial real estate brokers and agents with their challenges in the market relating to sales, leasing and property management. So this video is particularly on tenant move-in procedures. So when you lease a vacant commercial or retail property to a new tenant, that process will not be the end of the leasing matter. The lease commitment is the start of the process, and there are many things to be done to take the tenant forward in occupancy in the property. You need an organised move-in procedure. Indeed, you do need a checklist of some form. So to take matters further, in creating the move-in strategy, some properties will be more complex than others. Properties with multiple tenants in occupancy will require that higher level of control. You don't want the other tenants getting inconvenienced by the new tenant entering the property and starting the noisy and dusty fit-out arrangements. So where do you start and how do you get things moving? So here are some ideas to help you. So number one, take photographs of the tenancy to ensure that you understand the presentation of that property and the tenancy today. Store those photos for later reference in lease situations. They will be valuable to resolve any dispute, and particularly so when the end of the lease requires a make good of the premises. Number two, inspect the property. There are two levels of inspection to undertake. Firstly, it's good to take the landlord through the tenancy before the space is handed over to the tenant. The landlord can then see the status of the premises and any concerns of presentation can be rectified or documented. Secondly, it's then appropriate to take the tenant through the tenancy before the handover. In that way, all matters of presentation and finishes can be discussed and resolved. Number three, create a written report of the inspection of the premises with the tenant. Note any issues that are of relevance or concern. Get the tenant to sign your inspection report at the end of the walkthrough. Give the tenant a copy of the inspection report duly signed by yourself as the leasing agent or the property manager, and the tenant will be in agreement to your findings by signing that document. Number four, ensure that the landlord works are completed prior to the tenant handover. Those landlord works would have been agreed as part of the original lease agreement. The tenant should agree that those works are as intended with the lease arrangements, and naturally you will sign off the completion of those works on behalf of the landlord. Number five, all the lease commitments for the tenant should be satisfied prior to commencing occupancy and indeed getting the keys. That will include the lease signed, the deposit paid, rent paid and guarantees provided. Read the lease to make sure you have everything covered. Make sure that everything is required of the tenant and is in place prior to giving them the keys. Think about the rental payments, the bond, the guarantee, the deposit, the signing of the documents. Everything needs to be completed before you hand the keys over to the tenant. Number six, insurance. All insurance requirements of the tenant should be completed and certificates of currency provided to the landlord through the property manager prior to occupancy being allowed. Now, within the lease document there will be certain insurance requirements of the tenant. Perhaps it relates to plate glass insurance or public liability or both, but make sure that those insurance requirements are taken care of prior to the tenant taking up occupancy. You need that certificate of currency prior to giving them the keys. Number seven, give the tenant a fit-out guide so that they know the limitations and the rules that apply to undertaking a new fit-out within the property and within the premises. The contractors for the tenant will need to comply with the conditions of the tenant fit-out guide as well. Get the tenant to sign off on receiving a copy of the guide. Of course, if anything goes wrong, you can then police the issue through the tenant fit-out guide back to the tenant and or their contractor. In other words, they have to stick to the rules as part of completing any fit-out within the property. Certainly you don't want to inconvenience any other tenants within the property. That's what a fit-out guide is all about. Number 8, the building manual. Give the tenant a building manual that explains how the property operates. That may be in security, safety provisions, emergency services, access, car parking and the like. The building manual itself can cover all of the issues that a tenant would require for ongoing regular occupancy. You can cover issues, as I said, such as security, safety, access, lifts, maintenance, property management contact, any failure, matters within the property performance. The tenant needs to know what to do when those things occur, and the building manual will help them with that. So when you look at these things, these ideas, that is the photographs of the property, the inspection, the written report, the land or works need to be completed, tenant lease commitments, insurance details, fit-out guide and building manual. All very useful strategies to control the tenant move-in procedure. Perhaps you might have a checklist created including those particular issues so that you can control the tenant moving into your property. And certainly it should be said that any complex property will be quite a challenge when it comes to moving a number of tenants in at the same time. So that's the topic for today. That's a tenant move-in procedure. It can relate to, of course, retail property, office and industrial property. The larger the property and the more tenants that you have within that property, then of course there is a challenge to controlling the tenant move-in. And you don't want to inconvenience any other tenants that may be located in the same general area as the new tenant. So that's the information for today, the short video. And as I said, if you need any information regards commercial real estate agency or brokerage, you can go to our website, which is commercial-realestate-training.com. This is John Highman from that website. I thank you for listening to the video today, and I'll catch you next time with another informational support. Thank you.